Hey, I'm Nancy Cavey, National ERISA and Individual Disability Attorney. Welcome to Winning Isn't Easy. Before we get started, I've got to give you a legal disclaimer. This podcast is not legal advice. The Florida bar tells me that I've got to say this before every episode. So I've said it, but nothing will ever prevent me from giving you an easy to understand overview of the disability insurance world, the games that disability carriers play, and what you need to know to get the disability benefits you deserve. So off we go. Today, I'm going to talk about three things. Number one, before you file a claim for your ERISA long-term disability benefits, should you get neuropsychological testing? Before you file a claim for your ERISA long-term disability claim, more about why you may or may not want to get neuropsychological testing. And number three, should I get brain mapping studies for my MECFS ERISA long-term disability claim? Let's take a break for a moment before we get into this episode.
Have you been robbed of your peace of mind from your disability insurance carrier? You owe it to yourself to get a copy of Robbed of Your Peace of Mind, which provides you with everything you need to know about the long-term disability claim process. Request your free copy of the book at caveylaw.com today.
Welcome back to Winning Isn't Easy. You ready to get started? I'm first going to talk about, before you file a claim for your ERISA long-term disability benefits, whether or not you should get neuropsychological testing. Now, this is going to be a two-part segment. And the answer is going to be maybe. Now, that was a real smart and definitive answer, wasn't it? And the reason that it was equivocal was it really depends on the medical condition that you're claiming as the basis of your disability and who does the testing. The wrong type of testing by a biased neuropsychologist will kill your claim, but the right testing by the right provider for the right medical condition can make your claim. The decision, in my view, to undergo a neuropsychological evaluation is policy, fact, and medical specific to each claim. Before we get started in greater detail, let's first talk about what is neuropsychological testing and what conditions might be susceptible to having this type of testing as a way of proving a claim. Well, there are many medical conditions that can cause problems with your focus, your concentration, and your cognitive abilities that can make it difficult for you to perform your own or any occupation. These medical conditions can include MECFS, chronic fatigue syndrome, Lyme, fibromyalgia, traumatic brain injury, stroke, Parkinson's, multiple sclerosis, and even heart conditions. Neurocognitive testing can be helpful because it will test your memory, your focus, your concentration, and the impact of your disease on your cognitive and executive functioning. So let's say, for example, you're a nurse and you have fibromyalgia. You might have problems with concentration. You might have problems remembering orders. You might have problems dispensing medication. And testing can tease out these types of problems. So I'm often asked, well, why should I have neuropsychological testing? You bought your own disability insurance policy, or you may have gotten coverage through your employer. And when you did that, you insured your occupation and your inability to perform the material and substantial duties of your occupation, or ultimately any occupation. Now, unfortunately, there's no uniform definition of occupation, and every policy has a different definition. And that's why the answer to whether you should have neuropsychological testing can be a bit difficult on the face of it to figure it out. Now, some policies will define occupation as how you were performing it at the time you became disabled, while other policies will define occupation as how that occupation is performed in the national economy or how it's performed pursuant to the Dictionary of Occupational Titles. But once you know what the applicable definition of occupation is, then we've got to work into what are the material and substantial duties of your occupation. And ultimately, of course, the question is going to be, what problems are you having performing the material and substantial duties of your occupation? And why are you having those problems, being something that needs to be objectively proven? So, for example, you might be a stockbroker who's having problems remembering stock prices, or doing calculations in your head, or making the split decision to buy or sell stock. Your physician may suggest an MRI of the brain to determine if there's a tumor or changes consistent with MS or PD, or even changes consistent with early onset Alzheimer's. Now, to tie down why you're having these problems and whether these problems are consistent with the diagnosis, you might want to have neurocognitive testing. The testing can confirm that you are, in fact, having organic problems that are causing the exact problems that you're complaining of. Now, the testing will also address any psychiatric cause of your problems. You can be assured that disability carriers are always looking for a way to limit their exposure to just 2 years under the mental nervous policy limitations. So it's really important that we understand the nature of any mental nervous policy limitations in your policy and whether or not we've got a broad mental nervous limitation. I call it the Monty Python theory of mental nervous conditions, where anything that's small, 0.01% that contributes to your disability can limit your benefits to just 2 years. So we want to be careful, of course, about the neuropsychological testing and what exactly we're testing for and trying to tease out. Now, there also might be a subjective medical condition limitation in the policy that will limit your benefits to just 2 years if you have problems because of depression or you have problems consistent with memory loss or fatigue. And they'll use those generic terms. There are instances in which depression and other psychological problems can cause problems with memory or concentration, but we want to tie these back to an organic cause, not a subjective cause. Clearly, you've got to know what's in your policy and these policy limitations before you stop working and apply for your benefits or appeal a wrongful denial of your claim. Now, once you have the answer to those questions, in my view, the decision about whether or not to have testing and the nature of the testing becomes clear. Let's take a quick break before we continue on this section.